Well, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today, and I'll make a brief statement. I'll allow Ken to make a brief statement, then we'll answer any questions you may have. First, I'd like to thank our great St. Louis Blues fans for their support again this season. Winning the Central Division was an accomplishment that we all take great pride in, but we're not naive to the fact that we let the fans down this year with our postseason play. It's something that we need to find a way to address. We need to find a way to overcome. The job of the general manager in this situation is to evaluate the hockey operations area in every aspect, from scouting to management to players to coaching to trainers. That's what I'm going to do over the next little while. I'm not going to give a definite timeline on any decisions I'll make moving forward. You know, it's a raw time, I think, right now for everyone in the organization. It's a very raw time for myself right now. I have the utmost respect for what this team has accomplished over the last 4 years. Under Ken's leadership, we've had the best regular season record in the NHL, but I'm also keenly aware that 10 days to 2 weeks can evaporate 6 months of good work. That's disappointing. It's a burden that I carry. It's a burden that I'm going to try and address. If you're looking for a statement today that's going to have a definite answer, I don't have that for you yet. I think that what I need to do is I need to use the time that's allotted to me now to do that evaluation that we talked about. I'm going to personally leave town tomorrow, going to go watch our minor league team play in Utica. Then I'm going to come back for a week, have more meetings, head to the World Championships. Going to try and reconnect with Vladdy Sabatka to find out what his intentions are a year from now. Come back and then push this team moving forward. It's not a great feeling to be here, and that's the understatement of everything I'll say so early in the postseason, but it's a reality and something I have to deal with. Ken?
Thanks, Doug. Echoing what Doug said, I'm really proud of the fact that the players really dug in for the regular season and won the toughest division in hockey, maybe even the toughest division in sport. And I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud the fact that they really played their best hockey at the end of the year. A little bit like echoing Doug, this is a sensitive, emotional time for us as coaches. We've been at this every day since the 21st of August, and we need time to evaluate and process and think about what just happened. This feels much different than last year, and we need to sit down, and I need personal time to sit down and reflect on each and every playoff game. I haven't looked at anything yet, and I want that personal time with my family to be able to sit down and evaluate what part was our responsibility and what part needs to change for us to have success. I feel there's a huge investment between the coaches, the players, and the fans. Not only the fans that come to the games, but the television and radio audience. There's a huge connection in this community, and they live and die with us, and it's an awesome feeling. I can't go anywhere in the city without people wishing us luck. I can't go anywhere without people supporting us, and it's a great feeling. And the feeling right now, quite frankly, is we let them down in a big way, and we are hurting for them and for us, and we need to take a hard look at what our role was in this and what our responsibility was in this. We've got a good team. We got beat by a better team, and it wasn't a team that, for me, they played better hockey for more minutes than we did, and we never got to our A game until Game 4, where we really got to our A game, and so all of that has to be personally evaluated by me on why those things transpired.
Doug, I know it's early, but what do you think has been the difference in this team, regular season, carrying it over to the postseason the past 3 years?
My feeling when I talked to the players today was that I think there's a misconception of raising your level in the playoffs. I think you have to play to your level. And for whatever reason, we don't play to the same level individually and collectively in the postseason as we do in the regular season. I think that the good teams stay consistent, and whether it's internal pressure, external pressure, we don't stay consistent, we drop off. We drop off, our play drops off, and our individual play drops off in the postseason. I have to evaluate that. I have to find out why. I have to find a way, are there things that I can do to alleviate some of those mental blocks as we enter into the playoffs? Ken needs to do the same thing, but more importantly, the players need to do the same thing. I think they're the ones on the ice that can get the job done. As I said, the pride I have of working with these guys is genuine and true. You don't do what they do over 6 months without having character, without having a work ethic, and there's a small part that I haven't been able to unlock, that we haven't been able to unlock as a group, on why we can't do it when you're in the postseason. We're playing good competition, but you're supposed to play good competition. That's why it's the playoffs. You know, you're supposed to be able to do timely things in the playoffs. You're supposed to be. I don't want to get individually here. You need to play to a level that's consistent with what made you a championship regular season team, and we don't do that.
The snap, and this is for both guys, the snap judgment from fans has been to look at the core that's near or at 30 of Backus, Oshie, Berglund, obviously Jax. Is it fair to look at those guys, that veteran core that has not been able to achieve success yet in the playoffs?
Well, I'll start on that. I think we win as a team, we lose as a team. But the reality is, there's been a number of us, myself included, that have been here through the disappointments. And we entered a window 4 years ago, and the window doesn't stay open forever. And I don't want to diminish the work that Ken and the players do in the regular season. It does bring the people into the building every night. They're excited. They go home happy. It's a great group to be around, but we're not getting it done at that time of year. And I think that group you just said bears the responsibility, but no more than I bear it, and no more than Ken bears it. But they're the leaders. They're our A players. They have to bear the equal responsibility at a minimum to what the rest of us bear.
Hitch, could you?
Well, I don't want to get into individual play or anything like that. I'm not ready for that. And there's wild ebbs and flows in our game, and there's a tremendous amount of emotion in our game, and the wild ebbs and flows lead to inconsistent play at times, and that's what we've viewed this year. I think this year is last year is completely different than this year. Last year was an awesome performance by a banged-up hockey club, and it was incredible to see. This year there was really wild swings in play, And there was some wild swings during the regular season too, and we found ways to get points and wins because of it, and during it. But this had a lot of the regular season in it, and there was either feast or famine in our game. Example game, the pivotal game in Game 5. There was feast and famine in that game, and that's something that I need to sit down and review with every coach and myself and process it in my own way.
Doug, when you're as invested in a team as you are, and it's had as much to do with putting together this roster as you have, is it more difficult to think about taking this team apart or keeping it together at this point?
What I don't want to do is hurt the franchise long term. I don't want to do something that is going to be a good headline tomorrow and that we're going to regret for 5 or 6 years. No manager says, I'm going to make a phone call today, I'm going to make a really bad trade. So I don't want to be the first. But Bill Parcells, the circus doesn't stay in town forever. We got to get it done. A lot of good guys want to get it done. I'd rather work with these guys than against these guys, but ultimately, I'm going to do what I have to do to give our organization the best chance for success. And hard decisions are made. That's the business that we've chosen. We're all compensated very well, and there's a responsibility that goes with that compensation. And I'm going to be evaluated from our ownership group, and then I will evaluate the hockey operations group. That's the responsibility I've been given. And to answer your question, I don't want to tear it apart, but I'm not afraid to make changes if I think it'll help the team. But I don't really want to orchestrate an option to the owner to get rid of 9 or 10 guys and bring in draft picks. That's an option. I've seen teams do that. The Florida Marlins, they won a championship and then they gutted their franchise. But again, I'm a steward for the franchise, and I'm going to take the direction from ownership. But my recommendation is going to be, let's live to fight another day. Let's go back to work. Let's prop this group up. Let's find out what's holding us back, and let's attack it.
Tom was on the radio yesterday and was something to be non-committal about saying anything definitive. It sounded like he was still kind of PO'd and wanted to calm down too. To what degree do you take your direction from him, and to what degree do you hope he takes his direction from you?
Well, I think that the era that I have been raised in sport is owners own, managers manage, coaches coach, and players play. I have to manage up to the owner. I have to give him my recommendations, and if we get to a point where he doesn't believe my recommendations are sound, he should make a change. That's his responsibility to the fan base. If he tells me what to do, I should make a change because I'm a professional. This is what I do for a living. It's not a hobby for me. This is how I make my living. And I certainly, I don't say that with disrespect to any of the owners, Tom included, but I have to honestly believe I know more about building a hockey team than the owners know. And I have to prove to them that I can do that.
Army, along those lines, this is going to be a couple months of evaluation and accountability. How do you go about evaluating, some of the moves that you've made over the months? They seem logical at the time. They may or may not work. That happens with everybody, every business. But how do you evaluate yourself?
I evaluate every trade immediately, half a year later, and then long term. We've been aggressive in making trades. We've been subtle in making acquisitions. This is more of a compliment to our pro staff than it is to anything. Like, we haven't made a trade where the player has gone somewhere else and evolved into something we couldn't get out of that player. The players that we've come in have performed to the level that we thought they should perform to. Now we're getting into, are the right decisions being made on the type of players that we need? That is something that I have to evaluate. I'll do that. I'm very fortunate to work with quality people, and Dave Taylor and Rob DeMaio, both former players. Our management staff includes Al McGinnis and Marty Brodeur. I've got a Hall of Fame in waiting coach to bounce ideas off of. But I do have to do an evaluation of the thought process that goes behind the trade and then the net result when it's said and done with.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard it. There's been tons of finger pointing. People want to point fingers at this guy or this group. What's fair in your opinion? And does it bother you when you hear some of it in terms of being directed at either your coach or your player?
I appreciate the anger because that means they care. When they stop caring, that's when this organization is in deep trouble. We as individuals and we as a group, we don't mind the praise, so we have to take the hits. Ken and I have talked about this. We're open season for a couple of weeks. Take your shots, have at it. We get it. We signed up for it. But my job is not to do something that's going to alleviate my responsibility and make a good headline. That's not what we can do. But Andy, we deserve the criticism because we're not performing at this time of year. But I'm not going to lose sight that the 6 months means something to me. You know, it doesn't mean, you know, would I like to be LA and muddle through regular seasons and finish 7th and 8th and win Stanley Cups? Yeah, I'd like to do that. But most teams that finish 7th and 8th don't win Stanley Cups. So I like what we're doing. I like being a top team. I love when people pick us to win. That's a response. Now we have to learn how to embrace that responsibility. But I'd much rather be a team that's expected to win than a team that's not expected to win.
Hitch, the most recent championship teams in this town, Rams had an extremely demanding veteran coach. Players had to buy in and meet those demands. Tony La Russa, you know him, extremely demanding, extremely intense, and the players had to buy in and meet the demands. You're obviously demanding. How comfortable are you with the players meeting your demands at this stage, on a big picture basis?
Well, I'm really comfortable with it. I think that's why we've had the record we've had. We've had the record because the buy-in has been great. You talk to players that come here from other organizations, they love what they see. I think, you know, Doug's right when he says there's a different temperature in the playoffs, and the temperature is not to raise your level. Everybody thinks it's to raise your level. It's to maintain a high level, a consistent level, and that's what we have to evaluate as a coaching staff. You know, what impact do we have on this, and what impact can we get better at, and what are the things that need to change on our side of things? Is it the build up to it? Is it the reaction to it? You know, what responsibility is ours? And we have to get through that part for us. And but your body of work tells you the buy-in. The temperature of the season, the temperature of the game, tells you your ability to handle the moment. And so there are things that personally, from a coach's standpoint, because I'm responsible for the other guys in the room, that I have to sit down with them and talk about. And you know, what role do we play in this, and what role do we need to get better at, and what role moving forward do I need to improve personally on myself too. And that's why I say I need to. This is a really emotional time for me because I feel a real connection to the community, and I need to just step back and evaluate where this thing's at.
Do both of you expect to be back next year? Do you worry about that or concerned?
My approach on that is always if there's a decision to be made that they want a new manager and I can't get another job as a manager, they should fire me. So I'm comfortable in my own skin. I want to be here. I want to see this through, but if Tom Stillman and the St. Louis Blues are the only team that are going to give me a job, I think he's answered his question.
Along those lines, again, Doug, you said you need some time to evaluate. Ken has said that he would like to be back. When and what evaluation do you need to have to start those talks, and what do you need to hear from Ken, and what can you tell us at this point about the job he's done with this team?
Well, I think we can start at the back. I think when you look at the day he took over, where the ship was headed to where we are now, there's been a quantum leap. There was hope not to be embarrassed, to expectations to win a cup. Those goalposts are very wide. So I give him the utmost credit for doing that, getting us on that task, or completing that task of respectability to then expectations. What we're going to evaluate now is what do we have to do together to move this forward. And I'm not sure, I'm not going to put a timeline on it. It's not going to be you come back in 18 days and I'll have an answer. It's going to be when as an organization, we're ready to decide on all of us. You know, that's myself included. I'm not above or immune to this situation. But like Ken and I we've been friends for a number of years. He needs time to reflect. I need to give him that time to reflect. The one thing that we have with each other has been honesty. Honesty when we weren't working together for, I don't know, better part of a decade, to honesty when we have been working together for the better part of over a decade. So, hey, as I said, we're big boys. He gets it. I get it. I got to do my job. He has to do his job, and we're going to continue to talk and move this forward.
And Ken, that was a couple weeks ago, or maybe even a couple months ago, that you said that you still feel the same way, that you would like to come back?
I need time. I need time to reflect right now. I need some time to evaluate right now what I've done, what I've accomplished, and what's happened to us, both positive, a lot of it, and the negative, which goes with the territory. Like I said, I feel like I've let people down right now, and I need to think about that, on what needs to improve, and I want time and space to evaluate it. And I'll sit down with Doug, and Doug's right. We've been together a long period of time. I know how good a coach I am. I know what I can do, but I want some time.
That being said, you guys have a lot of young players that are ascending. It looks like PRB has figured some things out. Fabry, Lindbaugh, Barbashev. Is this team, with those guys arriving at some point next year, are those guys going to wind up being better than some of the guys that you have that soon?
We hope so. I mean, it would be great that they came in here and they did what Vladdy did. I mean, I'd love to have guys be great players. Is it realistic to think that they're going to come in and take over the team? They haven't shown that in their junior careers, college careers, to be like Tarasenko was an anomaly. He was a mid-round pick with first or second overall talent. The other guys are mid-first round picks because of their talent level and how they're assessed. Now, with that being said, we need energy. We need Lindbaum's energy. We need Bertuzzo's energy. We need Fabry to come in and push as hard as he can. But to think that we talk championship and then are going to say, okay, we just need that 19-year-old to come over here and push us over the top, that doesn't work very often in our game. And I think that the makeup of the team, whatever in September, the responsibility is going to be on the leaders of that 27 to 31, 32-year-old group. Carry the ball. Let these guys support you, but carry the ball.
I mean, I know you said you need time to evaluate it, but do you feel like right now, in terms of the roster, do you think it's a tweak that can get you over the hump, or at this point is it more of, I don't want to say drastic, but not just a player or two maybe it's 5 players, maybe it's more of an overhaul than in years past?
Well, I think we've tweaked it every year, and I think a complete overhaul is difficult to do for a number of reasons. I'm not sure. I have to come to personal grips that that's what I think is best, but to move player X for an inferior player doesn't make you better. So if we can move the pieces around because we think we're getting better, then we do it. But to make a proclamation that there's going to be 5 new veteran guys in here and 5 veteran guys gone, there could be 8, there could be none. I got to see what the market bears. The market has to see what I bear. But there is going to be change. Bertuzzo, I have to work on a contract with him. I want him as part of our group. Lindbaum, we're going to go watch him play. I want him to have a legitimate chance. Ty Ratty showed us some things. I want to see how he does. Now, I'm going to go watch them play these next 3 playoff games. But the responsibility, I think, to answer your question, has to come not from the young players, but from the veteran players. And if there's a change, there's change.
It's Robert Fortuzo gave your team an element. I think you even said down the stretch that he needs to play. Fortuzo's obviously better with him in the lineup. Why didn't he play in the playoffs? And Army, did you support that decision for him not to be?
Well, I'll go first on that.
Thanks.
Ken, and the relationship between a coach and a manager, with regards to guys on the ice, when I make a player acquisition, I solicit Ken's opinion, and then I do what I think is right. When it comes to on ice who plays, Ken solicits my opinion, and he does what's right. I have 100% confidence and support. When he puts that lineup out there, he thinks that's the best lineup. I'm not going to second guess who he plays.
Robert sustained an injury, came back and played with the same injury, and the view starting out that he was out an extended period of time, and it would have been very difficult at the end, as much as we love his energy and everything, to ask him to crank up to speed. And that was an evaluation that was based on our part. It had nothing to do with his play. We love his energy, and in answering, the great part about what Doug and the staff have done young player-wise is that there's a bunch of reckless players coming in, hockey players, and it's a great organizational feeling for that, and Robert's one of those guys. And so the evaluation was because he was out an extended period of time, it would be really hard from a pace standpoint to get up, and that was the decision made. But do we like his energy? Yes. Do we like Lindbaum's energy? Yes, for sure.
Hitch, having been here 4 years now, I think the talent speaks for itself on this team. Talent doesn't always ultimately win. When you look at not only this performance, but some in the past, does it take you to a place where you perhaps question part of the team's bottom half, its resolve, its aggressiveness, given the moment, or is that reaching at this point?
No, I've said this before, Joe. You win and lose as a group. I think the things that we have to evaluate off of this playoffs is, why did it take us 4 games to get to our A game? And our A game was terrific. And we played on a consistent level later in the series. Why did it take us so long? Second part, our reaction to adversity. The emotional highs and lows were very dramatic with our group, and those are things that, as a coach, you have to evaluate the whys. It's a lot deeper than just saying it. You've got to evaluate why. What was the reaction? Those are things that we as a coaching staff, we've got to evaluate. We've got to look at, and what role did we have in this, and what happened because of that, and things like that. So this is completely different than anything else in the 2 previous years. This is completely different. This is a healthy group, other than Laterra in 1 game or a game and a half. This was a very healthy group, and so this is a whole different evaluation, and we've got to look at that and what role do we have in this. And how do we help it more and things like that. So we've got to sit down and process that stuff, and we need some time.
So when we spoke earlier, it sounded like the word was proud. As proud as you were of what had happened this year going into the playoffs, what happened in the playoffs is painful enough to cause you to reevaluate everything else that has happened this year. Am I reading that right?
It's painful to the point where I want to evaluate a lot of stuff. I want to evaluate a lot of stuff reaction-wise and things like that. I want to evaluate it, yeah.
Ryan Elliott mentioned just a few minutes ago that he feels the trend in the NHL is towards a goaltending tandem, especially things that was happening in some of the other playoff series. Would you agree with that assessment? And if so, do you think goaltending hands are kind of the way that the NHL is going, and how does that play into your evaluation system?
Well, I think you can look around the league. Montreal doesn't have a great tandem, but they got a great goalie. And that's nothing against their secondary goalie either. But you have a Lundqvist, you have a Pecorine, you have a Price. They're going to play 65, 70 games. I think that what you see around the league is the top and the bottom end goaltending has gotten very close. So you're very comfortable having to and playing both. I think that's the way we entered this season, that it was Brian's job. Jake was learning. Jake got up to speed quickly, and then they jostled for position. That's what you, from a competitive standpoint, that's what you want. You want to see from a manager's perspective, guys jostling and trying to be a great teammate, but to capture ice and not give it up. So I see us next year with a goalie tandem. If one of them takes the ball and just never drops it, never gives it up, good for us, bad for the second guy. If that doesn't happen, the second guy better be ready to grab it and not give it back.
That's going to be a great competition. That's going to make the team really good, because you've got a young guy that wants a bigger piece of the pie, and it's going to make for great personal competition through training camps, through exhibition games. You've got two good goalies going at it. We benefit. We benefit big time. I mean, we're in a. I know it's probably difficult for Brian and difficult for Jake, but the team benefits because of it. And it's that competitive cauldron that you love on your hockey club. It's like the 5 and 6 defensemen who are trying to take the top 4 spots, and it's a great atmosphere for the coach, and it's a really tough atmosphere for the players. But man, is it ever good for the team? And I see that happening because Jake was really good in the first 3 games when we weren't very good, and he really will have gained a lot of confidence. And Brian's not giving it up easy. He wants it back, and it's going to make for great drama.
Could both of you address what a difficult decision that might have been at the time, and now after the playoffs are over, you still glad you made that decision to go with Jake?
Yeah, I'm fully willing to live with that one. Yep.
And I'm fully supporting him.
When we're talking goaltenders, what's Marty Brodeur's future with the organization? Do you expect him to come back?
He and I have had a quick conversation. He's going to evaluate what he wants to do. I think he really enjoyed the freedom that he had this year with our group, but that's a part-time jobs are only good for so long, and then you either want to take a bigger piece of we need him to take a bigger chunk of what we're doing. You know, I guess let me rephrase this. Having a lot of part-time guys around isn't healthy. So it worked this year. I don't think it's going to work moving forward. But I'm not saying that if there's a full-time position that we can work out, that I wouldn't want him back here. I've had the opportunity to work again, you know, not to name drop, but I worked with Steve Yzerman at Hockey Canada events. Probably the most humble superstar I've ever met until I met Marty Turco. or I'm sorry, Marty Turco. Marty
No,
Brodeur.
Marty Turco.
Yeah. Too many Martys in my life. But no, I just said, but he's been great to have around, and I'm a better manager for working with him.
You mentioned you're going to go talk to Vladdy Sobotka. How much contact have you had with him to this point, and how confident are you that he'll be back next year?
I had contact via email, more one way than two way, quite honestly. I've talked to his agent a couple of different times. When he left, it was a business decision. I respected that. I understood it. Hoodler left the Detroit Red Wings years ago for the same thing. He had to do what he had to do, and we had to do what was right for our organization. I'd welcome him back with open arms. I think the ruble is going to make his decision maybe a little bit easier. I think that league doesn't seem to be having the same attraction and cachet it maybe had it a year or two ago. Obviously, I'm not an economist, so I'm not going to try and figure all that out. If he wants to come back, I'd love to have him back. I love what he brought to our team. I love his attitude. A huge fan of the man, and I respected the business decision. It was never a personal thing, from my perspective.
Do you think you missed what he brought this year, or you had other players in there?
I think we're in the same spot this year as we were last year, and he was here. So he's going to be part of the solution moving forward if he comes back. But do I think we're playing Chicago with just one different player? I think I have to. I think that's an easy way out for me, and I'm not doing justice to the process.
You're not returning his emails, is that what you're saying?
No, I would send him congratulatory things, and I didn't get a lot back. But I didn't expect to, Andy. Like I get that part of it. I was just, and I said that tongue in cheek. Well, it's difficult. Like if he had to move to Siberia to play ice hockey, and he made a lot of money doing it, and I'm happy for him. Like, hey, he can spend that money the rest of his life. I'd love him to come back here and play in St. Louis.
You've given out a lot of no-trade clauses. Could you ever be hamstrung? Do you feel like there's a chance that you could be hamstrung in trying to do what you want to do by those?
Well, a lot of the no-trade clauses are 7 teams a player can't go to. But if I get into the position as an organization, again, I report to other people. If a player won't waive his no-trade clause, we'll just put him on waivers. If I get to the point where we got to get rid of him, I'll find a way to move him along. I'd love to work. Look, what the no-trade doesn't say that you'll never be traded. It says you can be part of the process.
Army, what level of talks have you had with Tarasenko's camp? And is he a guy that, I know that in the past you've let him go to free agency even if they're restricted. Is he a guy that you'd like to get done beforehand? Or?
Yes. No, I haven't had any talks. We talked in training camp. He wanted to wait. I broached it again mid-season. He wanted to wait. The caveat on his deal is going to be term and compensation based on the cap. You hear maybe a $4 million swing from the different sides on what the cap's going to be. That's a lot of money in a cap system. We are not going to be active in signing other players until we get him taken care of. Meaning, we're going to take care of our restricted free agents, but we're not going to, I don't want to say this correctly, he's the primary guy. He knows it. The hockey world knows it. The St. Louis Blues will not be in a spot on July 5th if he's not signed, not to be able to match any offer sheet that's out there. And if it means allowing players to go to free agency, if it means making players sweat it out on what their deal's going to be, he's the priority for us.
Mitch, when you talk about needing some time to reflect, you always seem to come back to your willingness for the game. It's just you love to coach and you love to teach. Is that something you feel like you need to reflect on at this point?
No. I need some time, period. This is 2 days. Haven't even looked at game 1. I need some time. That's what it is. I need some time to do personal evaluation of my role, the coach's role, the way the team played. And I need to get together with Doug when he gets back, and we'll talk it through. We're two people that know how to work together. We'll do what's best for the organization. I just need some time.
Assuming the answer is yes, you still feel like you have the pulse of this team and it's a big complete on this level?
I need some time. It's as simple as that.
All right, well, thank you very much for everyone, and we'll see you